My name is Ty,
And I'm Lola.
and we have the coral reef for our Biodiversity Project.
All right, to start, what is going on? Coral reefs are being threatened by an accumulation of stresses arising from human activity. To simplify, these actions can be grouped as human extracting material from a coral reef or placing material onto the coral reefs. Over 50% of the world's coral reefs have died in the past 30 years.
Where is this happening? One place is the Caribbean and Western Atlantic. Staghorn and elkhorn corals are down 80 to 90%. Both of these species are listed as critically endangered. Some areas include Florida, the Bahamas, and the Great Barrier Reef in Australia.
And here's some examples of the reef. This is Florida, the Bahamas, and lastly is the Great Barrier Reef.
One example of this includes the Seychelles coral reefs. It has lost up to 90% of its coral reefs up to catastrophic bleaching starting in 1998. In 2016, though, the reef suffered another massive bleaching event that reversed the progress the reefs have made.
And here's the Seychelles coral reef with coral bleaching.
The next endangered coral reef is a kingdom reef in Hawaii. Ships that travel all over the world carry species in their hulls. In many cases, these species end up getting deposited in foreign waters that cause big disruption to the ecosystem's food chain. These invasive species create a major threat to the reefs, and at the moment, this reef is suffering an invasive algae species that is taking out numerous forms of life, turning the corals a dark green color or black. And here's a picture of it.
And here's the Kingdom Reef in Hawaii. Just look how dark it is.
When and how long this has been occurring and future predictions. As previously stated, 50% of the world's coral reefs have died in the past 30 years. Up to 90% may die within the next century. So far, 60 major episodes of coral bleaching has occurred between the 1979 and 1990. It is predicted that Taiwan and Turks and Caicos will be the first to experience an annual bleaching stage.
So what has happened? Some human effects include overfishing, which is an increase in demand for food and tourism, which has resulted in overfishing in deep waters, along with key reef waters as well. Another human effect includes destructive fishing methods. These are fishing methods that use things such as dynamite, cyanide, and other methods which break up fragile coral reefs and make it greatly unsuitable for living for the corals. While these harming methods are being used, it is damaging the habitat of the coral reefs that will further impact the success of fishermen. And lastly is pollution. Coral reefs need clean water in order to thrive. Litter, waste, and pollution overall are harming reefs worldwide. Up to 90% may die within the next century.
Here you can see that the corals have been overfished, along with destructive methods that cover them. And here's another destructive method. And lastly is litter on the corals.
Another factor is climate change. With that, it is coral bleaching. This occurs when the symbiosis between corals and their symbiotic zooxanthellae breaks down, resulting in the loss of the symbionts and a rapid whitening of the coral host. This can be caused by a rise of sea surface temperature, which is like the temperature of the water, and then if the temperature decreases, then the stressed coral can recover. Between 2014 and 2017, 75% of the world's tropical coral reefs have experienced heat stress severe enough to trigger bleaching.
And here's a graph that you can see how bad the bleaching is in certain areas.
Another factor is coral disease. Most diseases occur in response to the onset of bacteria, fungi, or viruses. These diseases may result in killing their host. When water temperature rises, they have found that the disease can grow stronger, as well as there is evidence to indicate lower water quantities increase disease as well. Can this be a cause of loss of biodiversity? Yes, without corals means we would have a less diverse and less beautiful ocean. Reefs are nurseries for numerous fish species, including commercial ones.
All right, the interactions with ecosystems and what else is being impacted. Over 25% of the ocean's fish depend on healthy coral reefs, as well as thousands of marine animals depend on the reefs as well for survival. Examples include sea turtles, fish, crabs, shrimp, starfish, seabirds, and many more. Fish and other organisms find their homes within coral reefs. They provide shelter, food, and a place for the fish to reproduce in all the small crevices of the coral. Deep water reefs exist as well, and they are less known, but they still support a wide variety of sea life. They also support animals at the base of the food chain.
What can be done locally and globally? You can reduce stormwater and pesticides that run into the water. We can lower the amount of global warming through less deforestation and using renewable energy sources. By planting trees, you can eliminate large amounts of runoff into the ocean. You can also use organic fertilizer that won't damage the ecosystem if it gets into the water. If you go to a coral reef, avoid touching it or diving near it or going near it with your boat. This can cause damage to it or even stress it, which can in fact kill it. And don't purchase coral souvenirs. This promotes the use of killing corals.
And here is the biodiversity in the water. And remember to plant some trees. And remember not to litter at the ocean. And don't buy souvenirs because it supports killing them.
We hope you enjoy our presentation on coral reefs for our Biodiversity Project. And here are our sources.